All right. So anyway, I had a debate in the last class, and he said, well, what you're doing is the same thing as cross multiplying. I'm like, yes, I know. You can cross multiply, but the way that I'm showing you to do it is just maybe 1 or 2 steps easier than cross multiplying every single time. Okay? So take my word for it. I promise you. I'm trying to make it easier for you, not more difficult. Okay? So if we're going to solve for t, what are we going to do? Let's set it up. T over what? That's right. You got to look opposite, right? That side angle pair right there, opposite. And it's not just 124. It's the sine of 124. Good. All right, equals. Now I look for the other side angle pair. See the side and the angle that's opposite? Okay, so what do I put? I got the side on top here, so what am I going to put on top here? 48, that's right. And what am I going to put on the bottom? Sine of 23. Got it. Make sense? Okay. All right, so now, watch this. You could cross multiply. I'm not saying that you couldn't cross multiply. You could. But it's a lot easier in one step. Because if I cross multiply, look what I got to do. I got to go 1 step, right? Multiply them together. 2 steps. And then I have to get t by itself. That would be 3 steps if I was going to cross multiply. I can do this in 1 step. And what would that 1 step be? Divide. Multiply. That's right. Okay, because look, it's being divided, isn't it? The sine of 124 is just a number. You could put the sine of 124 in your calculator and just get a regular number. So if you have t divided by just a regular number, how would you get rid of something that's being divided? You always do the what? What'd you learn in Algebra 1? You always do the opposite, right? So we do the opposite. What's the opposite of dividing? It's multiplying. So watch. I don't need to show it at this point. In Algebra 1, you probably would have to show it. Right now, I don't care if you show it. I know it's going to go away. So it goes away here, and what happens? It goes from the bottom, where? To the top. Okay, all kinds of ways you could look at it. I kind of like to look at it like that. It goes from the bottom here to the top over here. Now check it out. How many steps did I just do right there? 1 step, and I'm ready to put it in the calculator. If you cross multiplied, you'd actually have to do 3 steps, kind of 2, 2.5, whatever, maybe 3 if you depending on that cross multiplying as being 2 steps. But I think that's the easiest way to do it. Wouldn't you agree with that? You got to agree with that, I think. So now let's stick it in the calculator. Now again, it depends what calculator you're using. If you're using the 30XA, we'll talk about it. But let's do this calculator first. So what is it? It's 48 sine of 124, okay, divided by sine of 23, right? Let's see, divided by the sine of 23. Now if you had that TI-30XA, you wouldn't hit just 48 then a sine. You would hit 48 what? 124. No. 48 times, right. Then what? Go ahead, say it, Blake. 124 sine. And then you'd have to hit what? Equals. Okay, hit the equals, because I think some of the calculators, if you hit divide, it actually figures that out, but some don't. To be safe, I would do the top, hit equals, then hit divide, and then hit what? 23 sine, and then hit equals one more time. You follow me on that? Are you getting used to that on those calculators? All right. Because the one that I'm using right here is just a little bit different. Some of you guys are using this. Some are using the 30XA. Just make sure you know how to do that. So do I have everything here? Yep. And then hit equals, and there it is. Now this is a side, isn't it? What are they asking you around the side to? To the 10th, which would be what here? 0.8. That's right. So 101. So t equals 101.8. And that's it. That's how you find t. But the problem says to solve the what? Solve the triangle. When it says solve the triangle, I'm trying to find all the missing parts. Well, I've got t. Well, first of all, I got this. That was the first thing I found, isn't it? Okay, then I found this one. Now what do I have to find? S. So let's find that one. Now look, you know what t is now. It's 101.8. Yeah, you could use law of cosines, actually, if you wanted to, but I'm not going to. I think law of sines is a little bit easier. No, you can't do Pythagorean Theorem here. Is that what you were thinking? Like a squared plus b squared equals c squared. When can you only use Pythagorean theorem? When you have a right triangle. You don't. Well, if you're going to use the law of cosines, you would square root. Is that what you're talking about? Like c squared equals all that stuff? Yeah. But I'm not going to use law of cosines. I personally think law of sines, the math is a little bit simpler. All right. There are times when you have to use law of cosines and there's no other choice. But on this situation, I would use law of sines again. So we're solving for s. So let's go different color here. What do you want? Let's go blue. For solving for s, what's the angle pair? Remember that side angle pair? It goes with 33. So it's s. Oh, I'll do this a little quicker than I did the other one. Sine of 33 degrees equals, now look, you already knew this one. Where was it? Right here? Yeah, these two right here. Let's just use that one again. Is that all right? So I got S on top. What's going to go on top here? 48 over the sine of 23. Works exactly the same way as what we did up here, isn't it? Except I'm solving for a different side now. I'm solving for S. And it's got an angle that's opposite, a different angle that's opposite S. So watch the math. Multiply by the sine of 33. Plug that into your calculator. Boom, you're done. See how easy it is? It's really not that hard, is it? Do you agree? If you know how to set it up, right? Just one little multiplication. Bang. You multiply both sides by the sine of 33, stick it in a calculator, and we have done dozens, haven't we? Probably, literally dozens of these on the calculator. So let's do one more. 48, sine of 33, divided by sine of 23. Close that, equals, there it is, 32 point what? 7. Right, so S is 32.7. And there it is. We solve for that triangle. Look, at first glance, it looks kind of crazy. If you just walked in the room, never saw this before, you'd look at this, and if I told you you'd know how to do this, you'd probably say, no way, that looks way too hard. But really, is it near as hard as what it looks right here? It's not at all. Yeah, Anthony. What did I do? I put 57 in there? I put 53. You're right. It's not 32.7, is it? Good catch. Good catch on that one. Let's try it again. What is it? 48 sine of 33 divided by, did I do that right? Yes, 33. I put 53 up there. I got everything else right, don't I? Oh, no, I did. Yeah, that was 33. I put sine of 53. It should have been the sine of 23. Good. Sine of 20. The 2 and the 5 are next to each other. That's probably why. 2, 3. Let's see what that is. Ah, there we go. Does that look right? 66.9. That's the answer I read off, isn't it? That sounds familiar. Thanks for that. All right, and there you go. So that's what S is 66.9. Let's just kind of see. How can we kind of check to see if everything's working out right? Look at the biggest angle. What's the biggest angle here? 124. Look at the side opposite the 124. It's the biggest side, isn't it? What's the smallest angle here? 23. Look opposite that. It's 48. That's the smallest side. Now, that doesn't guarantee that you got it right, but it at least gives you a good idea that you're probably on the right track. Make sense? So that's a quick little easy way to check to see if it works. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do the one with the right angle. So it looks like this, looks like this, looks like this. And now we don't know it's a right triangle to begin with, do we? And what is that, 20? And this is 48, is that right? I can't read very well. There we go. And C, D, and E. C, D, and E. Alright, we good with this so far? Alright, so let's see what we need to do. We need to find some angles, don't we? So if I'm going to find an angle, I don't know, let's say, I don't know, pick an angle. Which angle do you want to find? Doesn't matter. This one? Okay, we're up here already, so let's just do D. So look what we have. We don't have any side angle pairs, do we? Because look, I've got an angle on the side, but I'm missing this angle. That means I have to know one of the other angles, don't I? And I don't, to be able to use the law of sines. So my other option is what? Law of cosine. So let's do that. So it'd be what? Yeah, let's write it down. So it's c squared equals what? A squared, right? Minus 2. Yeah, actually, why did I put a parentheses there? 2ab cosine of c. Now these ABCs don't exactly match up letter for letter for this, but what is our C in this situation? What is our side C? It says 48, isn't it? Okay, so watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go 48 squared, okay, talk to me now, equals what? Okay, 52 squared plus 20 squared minus 2, right, right? Yeah, well, it's already labeled. We'll call it D, all right? All right, Brett's not the only one playing along, right? Everybody else watching? Paying attention? All right, so here we go. This is one where it gets a little bit more complicated, but I think we worked it out, don't you? You like this one? Look, I got to solve for D. It looks complicated. It does, okay? Blake? Sit up. So watch, it looks complicated, but remember the rule for this. I got to get rid of what's being added first. So how do I get rid of stuff that's being added and just, you got to subtract. So look, I got a 48 squared already over here. So how do I get rid of 52 squared? That's right, I subtract it from both sides. Do you see why it goes away right here? All right, I just subtracted it from both sides, so I subtract it from the other side. Remember in algebra, whatever you do to one side, what? You got to do to the other side, okay? And how do we get rid of this 20 squared? Subtract 20 squared. We good with that? Then, look, what's all these three things doing to this cosine of d? How do you get rid of stuff that's being multiplied? You divide. That's right. You always do the opposite, right? So divide by -2, divide by the 52, and divide by the 20. That's all on the bottom, and they're all being multiplied on the bottom. Everybody see that? They all stay together.
Now you want to get d by itself, and then you got to take the inverse.
That's it. I'll tell you what. Let's give myself a little more room here. Right? We've done this a whole bunch of times, haven't we? So if I want to get d by itself, watch, we got rid of this, this, this. How do I get rid of a cosine? I take the inverse of the cosine, okay? So d equals the inverse cosine of all this mess right here. Looks crazy, but it's just calculator work. You love your calculators. You always want to use your calculators. Don't I yell at you during the other time of the year to not use a calculator? Now I'm telling you, use your calculator. There's no way to do this without one, okay? But there's one thing that you got to keep track of are these parentheses, right? I put a parentheses here and here, and then I put a parentheses here and here. I have to put those in there myself on the calculator. This is probably the more difficult one out of all of them as far as using your calculator. So make sure you put it in the right order and all that good stuff. Slide this over here. All right, ready to do this? On your calculator, if you're using a TI-30XA, you probably don't need these first two set of parentheses. On this calculator, I think it's important to have it on there. So it's 48 squared minus 52 squared, right there, minus 20 squared. Make sure I'm putting in the right numbers. And then I'm going to close that parentheses. Everybody see that? See that yellow and that yellow? I had to put those in myself. It didn't just automatically pop up on the calculator. Now, on your calculators, the 30XA, what do you have to do here? Okay, yeah, I would hit equals on this. Okay, if you're not going to, you can actually get away without using parentheses on the top if you just hit equals. Hit equals and then divide, and then you definitely need to put a parentheses though on the bottom. So I'm going to hit divide on mine, then another parentheses, just like you would do, and then -2. Now on my calculator, I just hit negative first, then 2. What do you do on yours? Hit the 2, then the negative. That's right. And then times 52 times 20. And then I'm going to close that parentheses. I got 21. I sure did. Why am I not hitting right buttons today? All right, there you go. Now it's 20. All right, I close that parentheses. Now what do? Hit equals or enter. Is that my answer, 0.38? Is that the length? Is that the angle? Of course not. It's what? I got to hit the inverse cosine of this. So on your calculator, once you get that 0.3846, blah, 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 all you got to do is hit second function cosine, bang, your answer pops up. On this calculator, I do a little bit more, and you've seen me do this a bunch of times already. So it's the inverse cosine of the what? Of the answer, right? Equals, and then there it is, 67.38. All right. So D is 67. Whoops. What am I doing? 67 point. Now I know it is an angle. I tell you what. Let's just say 67 degrees because I want to see how this works. Okay. Is that what you got? 67 degrees? Is that the answer I read off too? What's that? Not the exact one, did we? I don't think so, because we didn't get the 90 degrees yesterday.
Yeah, I asked you about 39 yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think, because somebody else asked me as I was walking around yesterday about this one, because yesterday in class we didn't come up. We didn't do it in class, though. I might have helped you, but we did, yeah. But we didn't do it together in class. All right, so anyway, there's 67 degrees. So let's go back to our triangle and stick that in here right here. 67 degrees. What could you do now? Let's find either this angle or this angle. Now look, I do have a side angle pair now, don't I? Yeah. And I know one of the sides, so I could use law of sines, couldn't I? Yeah. Which one do you want to do? C. C? All right, let's do C. What color haven't I used? Let's go purple. Well, that's purple-ish. Let's go orange. Is it pink? Let's go orange. Does that look different? All right, so let's find this angle right here. So what can we use now? You could use the law of cosines again if you wanted to. But that's kind of a hassle, don't you think? Yeah. I only use law of cosines if we really need to. I kind of like the law of sines. Now, I got to tell you something about the law of sines. I'm not going to get into it. Next year when you take Algebra 2, I might have talked about it. It's called the ambiguous case. Have you heard me talk about that before? Okay. We're not going to talk about it in here. That gets a little bit beyond what we're doing in here. But anyway, I've been updated. Good. All right, but let's do the law of sines here. So what do we have? We're trying to solve for this angle. So we say the sine of angle C over what? The side opposite, which is 20, equals, now this side angle pair, I put the angle on top since I put the angle on top here, so it's the sine of 67 over, what? 48. 2 steps. We've done this already today. Multiply by 20, and then take the what? Inverse sine. So C is equal to the inverse sine of all this mess right here. Okay, I'll just rewrite it. Put it all nice and neat. And let's plug it into a calculator and see what we get. Hopefully we get what they get. 20 sine of 67 divided by 48 equals second function sine of the answer. So 22.5, and we'll round it to 23. So this is 23. So hopefully we'll get what we're supposed to right there. How do you find that third angle? Do I have to do any trig? Do I have to do any of that stuff? No, I know the 2 angles already. We've talked about that before. 180 minus 23 minus 67, and that's 90. Check it out. It's 90 degrees right there. Here you go. Worked out pretty nice, didn't it? Blake, you with me? You getting all this?
Yeah.
Good. All right. We're going to collect that. So make sure your name's on it. Make sure page number is on there. Put section 8, what is it? 8.6, right? 8.6, make sure that's on there. Pass them up. It's getting warm in here, isn't it? Got to open some windows.